big stories this past week has been the potential layoffs at Tinker Air Force Base, and obviously there's several other military installments here in Oklahoma. So I just wanted to ask you, what's your message to Oklahomans who have been hearing about these rumors? We've all been reporting, trying to figure out if that's true or not. That, and also, what can the state do if something happens like that?
Well, first of all, on your point of is it true or not, we're in the same boat you are. We're trying to figure out what's rumors and what's actual. Our senators from that area, in particular Senator Brenda Stanley, who's our Veterans Committee Chair, has been working very hard to try to find this out. She is in constant communication with the federal delegation to see what is fact, what is rumor, or what we anticipate might happen. So right now, I'm just like you, we're not sure. And she is on top of it. She's trying to make sure that we know as soon as possible. So in the event of layoffs, the state's ready to go. The governor's mentioned this as well. Put together state job fairs, things that can help people get back to work as soon as possible. One thing about Oklahoma's labor force is our unemployment rate is very, very low. And so hopefully if they don't continue employment at Tinker, we can quickly find them good employment somewhere else and help them in the process.
Another one has been Tinker Air Force Base and potential layoffs. Have you heard anything from federal delegation, or what could the state do? What would you advocate for if there were layoffs?
So one of the things on that very topic of our bases, you saw us just last night, our Appropriations Committee passed two pieces of legislation to provide support for our military installations. You saw one that's specifically targeted at Altus and Enid to provide support for those military bases for the schools that are there. I believe Chairman Caldwell talked about based down in Altus, how the output, the quality of work at that particular school is fantastic, but the school building itself receives an F rating. And so for us in the legislature, we feel like this is an appropriate area where we can invest strategically there. And then we also saw another piece of legislation around that where we can help support our various military installations across the state, which of course would include Tinker as we look and we see, and you've seen that in recent years where we've done that. Getting back to your specific question about the potential layoffs that have been mentioned there, look, I think I've seen a lot of different reports of various things. I think we'll know more as time comes how much of that is legitimate and how much isn't. But look, we're going to do everything we can to work with our federal delegation to continue to strengthen Oklahoma and keep jobs in Oklahoma.
Something you talked about.
On Friday, February 28th, U.S. Representative Tom Cole posted a statement to his social media pages saying he is aware of the rumors about Tinker Air Force Base, but he said he has not received any confirmation on the scale of potential layoffs.
This week in D.C., we saw sort of some initial proposals for the budget. This has proposed pretty substantial cuts to Medicaid, SNAP. Oklahoma is obviously on the hook for Medicaid expansion. Is that something that you have your ear to the ground on? Anything like any concerns on that?
Any concerns? Lots of concerns.
Yes.
Yes. So just looking at it from the federal side, they're dealing with a government that's spending $2 trillion more every year than what they're bringing in. They have to get that under control, and something like Medicaid is a big pot of money that they're looking at. So we don't know where that's going to fall. We know the reconciliation bill that's passed through the House includes Medicaid cuts, but it didn't give how much. Right now, the state is on a 90-10 basis, and so 90% feds pay, 10% the state pays. They're talking about that maybe going all the way to 60-40. If that is a fact, that's about a $550 to $700 million hit on the state's budget. And so yes, that would be a tough thing to absorb. So we are in conversations with our federal delegation about what that would look like. Is it going to be something that's phased in over 4 or 5 years, where that percentage goes down over time, or is it all of a sudden going to hit at one time? So that's the bad news of it is we might have to absorb, a lot of new costs in that. The other side of that is what we have in place in Oklahoma for Medicaid expansion is a constitutional provision that was put in place by the voters. So the legislature can't go in and tweak around the edges of that. And so, for example, workforce requirements, we can't change that because it's in the Constitution. They have to go back to a state question to change that. The other, I guess, the silver lining on that cloud would be the fact that we have been saving money. We have what's called the FMAP savings account, which has about $600 million in it just for the fluctuations of Medicaid, and so we're positioned to withstand that storm for a while. while we kind of figure it all out. But yeah, you go back to your question, are you concerned? Yes, we're very concerned. But it's just something that we may have to, whether we're concerned or not, it may be something that's put in front of us we have to deal with. So I think we're in a much better position than we were when I first came in the legislature in 2017 and 2018, when an unexpected bill got laid in front of us. We had no money to pay for it. We actually have enough money we can keep things going until we figure out how to handle it.
What are you hearing from the congressional delegation, or what are
They
expressing to you?
they're just saying it's a work in progress. And so, yeah, they have not, we're hearing the number 60-40. I have not heard that from our delegation. What I've heard from them is they're aware of our concerns. And the concerns of Oklahoma is also shared by 49 other states. And so it's not, the only thing that's really unique about Oklahoma is the fact that other states have the ability to go in there and manage their Medicaid expansion because they're statutory provisions. Ours is a constitutional provision. That makes it difficult. And so, that's the kind of thing that I look at and go, how do we handle this? And some of it's just, we may have to absorb it, or we may have to go back to the voters and see if they'd be interested in letting us work on that stuff. So, but that's a 2-year process to make that happen.
Are you concerned about some of the discussions taking place in Washington, D.C. regarding Medicaid funding and possible cuts there?
I don't know if I would say concerned, but we're certainly watching it, if that makes sense, because it definitely has an impact on Oklahoma. I want to be completely clear. I support what President Trump is doing in working to reduce the federal deficit. When you're $35 trillion in debt, we have to take action, and some of that action is going to be painful when you're talking about trying to right-size the federal government, which for too long hasn't been done. And so some of that will have impacts on the state of Oklahoma. And so this kind of gets, again, to our budget process and being asked about the House position. I think we're going to be watching closely what happens in that federal reconciliation bill with the budget, assuming Congress passes a budget on time next month, and seeing what does that impact have on the state of Oklahoma, because we are going to take those things in consideration for the state. There are various conversations as well about block grants, which would mean there's current services that are being provided by the federal government that perhaps they would just say, here, state of Oklahoma, here's the amount of money we sent you last year, go fulfill this program. And I would say on the areas where they're looking to do that there's a lot of them where the state of Oklahoma could do a better job, because I'm a firm believer. I would much rather have someone here in Oklahoma City calling the shots than some bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. that's never even seen Oklahoma.